And welcome to this Wednesday's Way Forward Workshop Leader Lunch Break. We are pleased to welcome Elaine Tsao to the conversation. Elaine just began her third year of leading Asian Services in Action. They are the largest health and social service agency in Ohio, serving the needs of Asian and Pacific Islander immigrants and refugees. Their mission is to empower and advocate so that this population has access to quality, culturally, and linguistically appropriate information, access to healthcare and social services. She's an attorney by training. She served as a judicial law clerk before joining the law firm of Masnick, Raskin, and Ryder, where she rose to the level of partner. Her inspiration for her work, she says, is her mother. Elaine patiently sat in doctors' waiting rooms while her mother acted as the volunteer interpreter between pregnant Asian women and their obstetricians who were neither women nor Asian. It was an alienating experience for these expectant mothers, and her mother was committed to bringing them solace and advocating for them. The advocacy gene is strong in Elaine's work. 16 years ago, she began with simply sorting donations to support immigrants and their families. Then, as she secured her law degree and began practicing, she began helping them with tenants' rights and other legal matters. She ultimately abandoned her law practice to live her passion of serving as the lead of Asian Services in Action. She lives her passion every day and serves a community too often overlooked. Elaine, welcome.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for that really warm welcome. The only correction that I will make to the to the biography is, I have not abandoned. I keep my law practice license active, so I'm still a fully licensed and active lawyer. And sometimes I wear that hat in my work with Asia, which you'll see in the slides that I will share. But definitely, I am living my passion, and I don't work a day at Asia because it is my my passion project. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can start the slides. So it's so nice to see some familiar names and of folks that have joined this presentation. So I'll just dive right in. Somehow not advancing. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to share some background about Asian Services in Action. I'll share some information about the AAPI community and also how Asia is helping the community. So Asia was founded in 1995 by a group of Asian women who wanted to help Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, also known as AAPIs, immigrants and refugees who were struggling to integrate in the United States. Asia is a very large and diverse continent, as you can see here in this map. And also, a lot of times people have asked me, how is it that you're helping so many different communities? And are these considered AAPIs as well? And sometimes I answer that we serve all who come to us for services, but additionally, there are a lot of close ties with what we would consider like the Middle East. In Afghanistan, they're still also considered part of the continent of Asia. But you'll see more on that below. So at the time that Asia was founded, many immigrants and refugees were coming from South Asian countries and not only East Asian countries. And today, as I referenced earlier, Asia is also serving immigrants and refugees from Middle Eastern countries and Africa. Asia welcomes all communities. And Asia started as a social services organization that was performing health screenings and community health promotion. But in 2013, Asia opened its first site of its International Community Health Center. And today we have 2 sites, one in Akron and one in Cleveland, to provide community health care in language to our service population. And as Marianne already indicated, Asia is the largest AAPI serving organization in the state of Ohio. So this is a couple of pictures. This is me with our board, and on my left, on my left is the picture of me and our board. This is all pre-COVID photos. And then on my right is me with my leadership team in front of our building. And this is more of our team members in front of our International Community Health Center. This is in Akron. So across two offices, Cleveland and Akron, Asia has 98 team members, and 80% of our team is bilingual or multilingual, including myself. And then we have 9 different departments that I'll share about moving ahead. Alphabetically, our first department is our Ahimsa department. So Ahimsa is a Sanskrit word, and it means peace, nonviolence. So it is the name of the department that handles our domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking services. So this department provides basic needs assistance, as well as legal services and counseling for survivors. We also have an aging adults program that's better known as Lucky Seniors. Before the pandemic, this was the program that provided a congregate meal opportunity for the Lucky Seniors, as well as civics and socialization. You know, for the elderly community, isolation is probably the leading cause of poor health outcomes. And so this program is designed to pair community like community members with each other so they can socialize and you know, uplift one another. And then for the civics education, that is so that if they're preparing for their citizenship test, they can study together. Post-pandemic, we had to make a lot of shifts. All of our previous in-person programming was suspended, and we had to shift in terms of providing our basic needs and benefits access you know, in a mobile delivery model. So instead of gathering to socialize over a meal, we delivered hot food to the community members at their residences. And we also called to check in on the community members because we knew that they were the most vulnerable to COVID. And so we provided them updates on testing availability when that was in the early part of the pandemic. And then now for the past year plus, we have provided them with access and availability to the COVID vaccine. Now, remember, isolation is a huge challenge for this community. So during the pandemic, we communicated with them more often on a social platform called WeChat, which those who happen to have a smartphone in this community or in this particular community, it's frequently used. Additionally, we taught 50 Lucky Seniors how to use Zoom. So through a grant, we were able to distribute 50 laptops as well as internet connections so that they and then taught those 50 Lucky Seniors how to use Zoom. It was really very adorable. I participated in some of those classes, and you know, whenever they saw each other on the Zoom, they would be so delighted, you know, like, oh my gosh, I'm on television. So but it was really a way to connect the Lucky Seniors with each other. Next, we have our Apex Fund for Economic Development, just shorthanded Apex Fund. This is a department that we have to support small Asian-owned or immigrant and refugee-owned small businesses. You know, most of the time when someone comes to this country, they don't have a credit score. So obtaining loans from a traditional bank is challenging. So not only do we have programs that are designed to improve credit scores or establish credit scores for these community members, but we also provide them with the microloans themselves. And then once they launch their small business, we provide them technical assistance all the way through. Children, Youth, and Families. Children, Youth, and Families is the longest established department within our organization. And our International Community Empowerment Project is Asia's longest running program. It was probably one of the first programs that was launched by our founder back in 1995. It's a program designed to help immigrant and refugee youth to integrate into American culture so that they can, learn as well as, just kind of be a kid. Coming from another country and having to, uproot yourself to come to the United States is a jarring experience and in and of itself, but then also having to cope with the challenges of adolescence, that just adds a layer of complexity. And so this program, the International Community Empowerment Project, it's designed so that the youth feel comfortable, despite whatever level of English speaking ability they have. The more English that they speak, the better their English becomes, and the more comfortable and confident they are, in school. And that program is run out of our Akron office. Our Community Adult Mentoring Program, or CAM for short, this is the after-school tutoring and homework assistance program that we offer through Cleveland Public Schools as well as Lakewood Public Schools. Next is our community and civic engagement. So this is the arm of our organization that works with, that works as our advocacy and voice for the AAPI community. We go on legislative visits. We made sure that everyone was counted in the 2020 census. And we also encourage the community members, once eligible through citizenship, to become voting Americans. So our International Community Health Center, it's abbreviated as ICHC. It opened in 2013, and here is where we provide our culturally and linguistically centered healthcare services. So we do outreach, and we still do outreach and community health promotions out in the community at farmers markets and community events, but we also have brick and mortar facilities, outpatient offices, so that community members can receive primary care services. And of course, our community health center responded to COVID. We are vaccinating, testing everyone in the community, and this team, just like the rest of our team, is bilingual and culturally aware and competent. So of course, as an organization that serves a community that speaks many different languages, we have an interpretation and translation services department. So, and in addition to providing the actual service of interpretation and translation, we also provide training for interpreters and translators so that they can be certified as interpreters and translators. And, because knowing another language or being bilingual or multilingual in other languages, that's not enough to be a good interpreter or translator. It also requires an understanding that when you interpret, you have to interpret exactly what the other person said, and then interpret it to the person who needs that information. You cannot ethically insert your own version of what the other person said. So it requires, not only, ethics, but it also requires confidentiality. Obviously, once you've done an interpretation for a client, you cannot, then go and share that the client received XYZ services. So it's important to have those very clear boundaries and following those very clear boundaries as an interpreter. We also provide legal services. As Mary Ann referenced, I am a lawyer, and here I am being a lawyer in the bottom set of photos. So last year in the fall, and in fact, it was 9/11, and that date was not lost on any of us. We hosted a legal clinic to assist with the humanitarian parole applications for to obtain visas for those who were fleeing Afghanistan. And so here I am helping this client assist his family members to get to safety in the United States on an emergency basis. So that's one of the services that we provide, but we also provide, legal permanent residency, or also known as green card services, as well as naturalization or citizenship services. We provide family law services, and we provide Marcy's Law representation for victims of crime. Whenever I reference that we provide representation for victims of crime, folks always ask, like, oh, is this a new program for, in response to the uptick in anti-Asian hate that has occurred during the pandemic? And my response is immediately no. We've had this program for victims of crime for many years, long before the uptick in anti-Asian hate during the pandemic. And it's because, when someone sees someone that might look like me, or someone that looks Asian, they might assume that person does not speak English. And so they believe in their nefarious mind that, oh, well, if you don't speak English, if I rob you or if I assault you, who are you going to tell? Because you don't speak English. And so we have bilingual attorneys and advocates who assist clients in this space to file police reports, as well as go to, if the perpetrator is brought to justice, then we help them give their victim impact statement. Our sustainability services is the largest department in our organization. And this department addresses all of the social determinants of health, everything from housing to food assistance, to workforce, to benefits access, to transportation services, to tax filing assistance. And I'm happy to report, we recently completed our volunteer income tax assistance program in the middle of April, and we were able to obtain refunds for our clients in excess of $2 million. So, which is amazing. We assisted 1,723 clients with their tax returns, and like I said, in excess of $2 million refunded. And this is a program that I really love. It's our Healthy Asian Pacific Islander Fresh Farmers Market. It's abbreviated as Happy Fresh. We host during the summer months a farmers market to provide healthy and culturally specific produce to our community members. And I love this program because it is a social enterprise, in the sense that we have community members who are growing, interested in growing gardens anyway. And if they had backyards, they would grow even more. But typically when someone is newly arrived to this country, they live in an apartment and they don't have access to a backyard. So through a partnership with a farm, we are able to rent out specific plots of land so that community members can go farm at those plots of land. And then not only are they able to grow culturally specific produce to feed their families, but there's always more than people always grow more than they can consume in their own household. And anyone who has ever grown tomatoes can attest to that fact. But because you're always giving out the tomatoes from your garden. But so in this sense, when they grow more than their families can consume, they can bring the surplus to our farmers market and sell it as an additional income stream for their families. So it's a beautiful social enterprise. It's solving the problem of food insecurity and also funding. So by the numbers, globally, there are 4.7 billion Asians. In the United States, there's 18.6 million Asians, approximately 6% of the US population. In Ohio, there are almost 400,000 Asians, which is approximately 3.2% of the population. And then in Cleveland, there are more than 67,000 Asians. Just a fun fact, nearly 1 out of every 6 Asians in Ohio receive services from Asia. You can do the math yourself. The largest number of new American voters in Ohio are AAPIs. So you can see from this chart, it's data from 2014 to 2018, because that's the most current data that I could get my hands on. But you could see that these are the new Americans who have become eligible to vote, and AAPIs represent 40% of that voting block, followed by African immigrants, European immigrants, Latin American, Middle Eastern, African, and Caribbean. Those are the numbers. And APIs are the fastest growing community across the country, as well as in Ohio. So that's Asia. We are responding to the community needs in a 360 degrees. We're supporting them through social services. We're supporting them through our International Community Health Center, and we are supporting them if they wish to be entrepreneurial and launch a business. So that's Asia's impact. We're providing culturally and linguistically centered services. We have trusted community members on our staff who are bilingual or multilingual. We respond to community needs, and we're empowering newly arrived community members. And we're doing advocacy, which reminds me of the final ask. So how can folks be helpful? We're always looking for partnership in good times as well as bad times. Come to our celebrations, events, everything, all are welcome. This past weekend, we were a major partner in the Cleveland Asian Festival that happened in Asiatown, Cleveland. Be open and curious to learn about cultures other than your own. We invite your co-conspiracy and championship, where our voice might not be loud enough. Together, our collective voice might be. Please check in on your friends and colleagues during spikes in anti-Asian hostilities. Listen without feedback unless asked. Allow space if requested. And then you can support Asian organizations like Asian Services in Action. We are currently advocating for Senate Bill 87, House Bill 224, for the creation of an Ohio Asian American and Pacific Islander Affairs Commission, as well as an Office of Asian American and Pacific Islander Affairs. We're also advocating for Ohio Senate Bill 214 to require inclusion of Asian American history in Ohio K-12 education. Many studies have concluded that acceptance and hostilities are reduced when communities have access to complete history and education. And then, of course, you can contribute to Asian Services in Action. So this is these are the sponsors of the Ohio Commission on Asian Affairs. And then Tina Maharath, she's the first Asian female Ohio senator, and she's advocating, or she co-sponsored the Senate bill for inclusion of Asian American history in Ohio K-12 education. And that's all I have. This is me. If you wish to contact me, you can reach me at this email address or our website, or you can follow us on all these social media channels. Thank you.
Great, Elaine, thank you so much. And we have had a few questions come in. So with our time remaining, we'll start with that Cleveland's Asiatown was redlined in the past alongside with Central and Huff. What headwinds linger from these actions in the mid-20th century?
Yeah, so, definitely restricting, where community members could live have had some after effects and consequences. I think that the benefit of having having Asia Town located where it is, there's definitely a community of solidarity in that space. So I think that there is a positive way that we can kind of look back on that situation.
And in Northeast Ohio, are you seeing the level of discrimination against the AAPI community that there's been reported from other communities? And can you talk about the Stop the Asian Hate campaign and your work here in Northeast Ohio around that campaign?
Yeah, so part of our International Community Health Center, we also provide behavioral health services as well as counseling. And there has been a steady increase in the number of community members that have come to us for counseling because they have experienced those challenges with the uptick in anti-Asian hate. We have seen community members who, even if they were not directly assaulted, or even if they were not directly involved in an altercation, just the secondary trauma that's associated with knowing that these things are happening, it has affected them. And so I know that a lot of the elderly community members that live in Asia Town, Cleveland, they are setting out from their residence a lot less than they did before the uptick. And this is a community that really loves to walk. I mean, the elderly community in Asia Town, Cleveland, like they love like walking and going out to explore, and they have really reduced that part of their life because of fears around being shoved down and assaulted in ways that they know their friends and peers have experienced. So, and unfortunately, in terms of the data that's out there, there is very, very significant underreporting of incidents because the community is just too reticent about making any type of wave about what's happening to them. And I keep telling them that we cannot help the situation if you won't report what happened. And they keep responding that they want to keep their lives private, and they don't, and by making a police report or something like that, they fear that they're making themselves more of a target, because you do have to put your name, address, all these different pieces of identifying information on a police report in order to file it. And so there is, whatever has been reported, those are very courageous, and I'm so proud of them, people who have reported incidents, but there is many, many times that number of incidents that have happened that have gone unreported.
You have shared so much of the work that you are currently doing. What's next? What's your vision for the next few years for the organization?
Well, for the next few years, I really hope that we will be able to expand our services to reach more community members. I mean, while I'm proud of the fact that one out of nearly every 6 AAPI Ohioans is served by Asia. I mean, that number definitely has room to grow, and we hope to expand in terms of providing additional health services, to include dental. I hope that we're able to have a community center, because the Asian community, like I said, they like to walk and they like to go out outside, but in Northeast Ohio, the weather doesn't always permit that to happen. And so in the winter months, and I know this because we have gone to our legislature in the State House, and we go there with community members, and they say in language, and then through an interpreter also, if they speak a language that I don't speak, then I've heard them say, we really wish we had a recreation center. We really wish we had a space where we could have culturally specific games, activities, sports, things that are not always available in the mainstream recreation centers.
Well, Elaine, I mentioned before we started that this was going to be a quick 30 minutes, and we have come to the end of our time together. But thank you so much for sharing the extensive and amazing work that you are doing here in Northeast Ohio. And we will be sure to share the website with those who have registered today. I'd encourage everyone to follow up, share the mission, and share the work and support the work. And Elaine, thank you for being here.